Hi everyone, I'm Barbara. Welcome to my channel, Picky Chick. If you are new here, I am an eBay seller, an Etsy seller, and a Poshmark seller. I also have an antique booth. So if you like that type of content, please consider subscribing. And if you are already a subscriber, thanks for tuning in today. I am going to talk today about my antique booth. I specifically want to tell you that I have made a decision to close my booth. There are several reasons why I decided to do that, and I'm going to share that with you today. First, let me give you a little bit of background about the antique booth. I opened the antique booth in April of 2019, and it is now early October of 2019. So the booth closes at the end of this month, which will mean that 7 months total I've had the antique booth. Now, the first 3 months I did split the business with my sister-in-law. She and I split the space and the rent cost. So for the 4 months, I've been flying solo in the booth. One of the main reasons why I wanted to try the antique booth is because I thought it would be a good fit with my eBay business. I was outsourcing for items for eBay anyway, and I tended to pass on the larger items. I don't really like to store and ship larger items for eBay. And so I thought, I'm out there looking, there's an opportunity to rent a place in an antique booth, I'm gonna go for it. And so I did. So I did go for it, decided to rent the booth, and my sister-in-law came in with me as far as splitting the rent, and we tried to split the space half and half, and we did that for 3 months until she left after the first 3 months, and then I carried the booth for the past 4 months. One of the reasons that I decided to close my antique booth was the time factor. Now, not only does it take time to source your item, of course, you have to bring it home, clean it up, it usually does need cleaning, price it, and then drive it over to your antique booth, and then there's the merchandising of the item. You can't just plop it in anywhere. You want to make sure your booth looks nice and attractive for the buyer. So you're there placing your items in, and while you're there, you're also moving things around because items have sold. You kind of want to always rearrange your booth to make it look interesting. So that's the big time element there. The time that I spent doing all the things I just described meant that's how much time I could not spend on my eBay business and Poshmark and Etsy. So that took time away from that part of my business, and it came to a point when I felt like I could not do either one at the level that I really wanted to do, to give it my all, to do it in an excellent way. Another big reason I decided to close my booth was profitability. Yeah, profitability. That's a big one too. Now, all in all, I only made an average of about $180 a month on my booth. Now, that's not terrible, but to me, it's more of a hobby. I lost money in the first month or two because I was still getting the hang of it and figuring out all the things that I should be bringing in to sell. My best month was last month, which was, let's see, my best month actually was August of 2019. I made $618. But last month, I basically broke even. Now, when I'm talking about the money that I'm making, I'm talking about net. So I netted about $180 a month on the antique booth. Now, my rent is higher than I've ever seen before. I did a little bit of research of what different people are paying across the country, and my booth rent is $250 a month. Now, that really cut into my profits big time. Another factor that went into my decision of closing the antique booth is labor. It takes some heavy lifting for some of the pieces that I had been selling in my antique booth. For example, I found a really cool vintage trunk a big chest. Really beautiful piece. I took it into my antique booth. I only have a hatchback car, so I lifted that bad boy myself into my car, and I have no desire to do that type of heavy labor, heavy lifting. And besides that, I put a few dings in my car in the process of carting things to and from my antique booth. I also ripped the lining of my car on the roof. So that was also a big factor. I'm not into the heavy labor thing. I'd also like to add that this stuff takes up space. Now, I used to park my car in my garage. I haven't parked my car in my garage since I have had this antique booth. So I'm going to show you, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, the stuff in my garage, what it looks like now, and you'll see for yourself. Let me give you a view of my garage. My garage that now has all this stuff in it that I had planned on selling in my antique booth. Now, I probably got pretty aggressive, optimistic, I don't know what you would call it, but I collected all this stuff. My garage is an organized mess right now, and none of this stuff is probably at this point going to make it into my antique booth. Maybe some of it will. I'm just looking at those vintage suitcases over there. Maybe I can take some of this stuff over there. But as you can see, this is a lot of stuff that's taking up the space in my garage. And it does bleed over into that section too, which I'm not even going to bother showing you. Not only does it take up space in my garage, but it often bleeds over into my house. Now, I'm not a neat freak, but I do like to keep my living area organized, and I will show you again. Right now, my foyer has got stuff in it that I've been pricing, and it's in a pile to take to the antique booth. And I'll show you a little bit about that right here. Now I'll just give you some perspective of how this stuff can bleed over into my living space. Hi guys, there's Alfie. Hi Alfie. And there's Fred. This is a pile of things, and trust me, this is not much as far as how messy it can be, but I brought this stuff into my foyer because I'm taking it over to the antique booth either later today or tomorrow, and it just tends to bleed into my living space. Now, this is nothing. This is on a small scale, really, but something that kind of made me a bit weary, and I'm not going to miss this part. I don't think Fred minds, though. Do you? Do you mind all this stuff in the foyer? Huh? What do you have on your face? So as of now, it's early October. I have about 3.5 weeks ahead of me until the booth is finally closed. And the plan is to try to clear out the booth by maybe in the last 10 days putting a 50% off sign, maybe in the last week putting a 75% off sale sign in my booth. I have to figure that out as I go. Also, another idea I had was to place an ad on Craigslist announcing that I have an antique booth that I'm liquidating, and hopefully get some traffic over to the booth and get some sales that way. And in addition to that, I'm trying to make some contact with some other antique dealers in my mall to let them know that I have a garage full of things, and to take a look in my booth to see possibly whatever might be left, if they might be interested in making a bulk deal. So if you've been following me here on YouTube and specifically following my antique booth journey, that part's coming to an end. I really am looking forward to being able to concentrate more on my online business with eBay, Poshmark, and Etsy, and also continue with content for my YouTube channel. So if you have been thinking of opening your own antique booth, or if you have one and you've been thinking about possibly closing it, I hope that what I've shared with you today can help you come to your own decision. I really appreciate you spending time with me today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.